Hello, everyone, and welcome to Vegan Business Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Fox. My guest today is all the way from the UK. It's Jecks Stone, interior designer and founder of Persona Abode. Now, Jecks creates home environments beneficial to health and well-being. Her background in, wait for it, recycling management and historic building conservation were the foundations of marrying interiors with environmental impact. After wrestling with balancing her morals with the perceived frivolity of the interior design industry, Jecks became one of the first UK designers to be vegandesign.org certified. Through Persona Abode, her vegan lifestyle and interest in mental health, she advocates for healthy living environments, being mindful of designing for people, place and planet. Welcome to the show, Jecks.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm really looking forward to speaking with you because you've got quite an interesting career background. So just tell us briefly, just give us a little bit of a helicopter ride. How and why did you move from recycling management and historic building conservation to interior design?
Okay. I should tell you that everything about my life is totally unplanned, but it all seems to come together like a jigsaw puzzle. So I've always been the child who is called the hippie. It was no surprise that I went into recycling. I was the tie-dye girl, the long skirts, the big boots kind of person growing up. If I wasn't reading a book, I was hugging a tree, climbing a tree, thinking about nature. And so I was 18. I had my daughter when I was 18, and I was kind of floating around. I was thinking I was going to be a pediatrician. Then I had my daughter. I was like, that's not for me. Then I was going to go into PR, and I realized I don't actually like communicating. So yeah, after that, I was kind of like, what can I possibly do? I always liked to be creative. I've always written, and I've always done art and stuff. And I kind of got into holistic medicine. So I studied color theory and orasama and nutrition. And that was fun for a time. But then it kind of led me to holistic interior design. And I really wanted to do this course, but as I said, I had a young baby and I couldn't afford to do it. So I kind of kept this leaflet, and I still have it today, which is like 22 years later. Wow. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it eventually. When I had my second daughter, I did a short course in interior decoration, doing all the rag rolling and stenciling and stuff like that. And I couldn't understand the teacher, so I had to leave.
Oh my God.
But there was still this passion that I wanted to do interior design. But because I couldn't afford the course at the time, I did accountancy, as you do.
Wow. Okay.
In doing accountancy, I found a job for a recycling company. And it was, I was doing the accounts, but because it was a really small niche business called Bromcam, you kind of got stuck in everything. So we've done a lot of recycling management for commercial businesses as well as residential. It was like teaching them how to do recycling in the different capacities. And I was totally in my element. I've been a keen recycler, annoying my family since I was day off. And it was just a great experience. But because it was a charity, they lost funding, and I kind of was like, no, I can't work for free. So I jumped ship and then landed in London. And I spent a year not doing anything but looking after the kids. But then I needed another job. And it was my accountancy qualifications that enabled me to work in listed building conservation, because they primarily wanted someone to do the finances. But again, it's a big company because it was Church of England, but it was very niche. So it was just my boss doing all the work, and he was looking after 1,000 churches. So he needed someone to help him. So it was like, well, hey, we'll put you on a course. And so I started to learn architecture and conservation, and kind of, so the finance kind of stayed there, but then I started working more on projects to do with the construction. So anyway,
Wow.
a lot of the time the meetings are outside, which I hate heights, and they was on top of scaffolding. So imagine climbing cathedrals and not
Wow.
wanting to look down. Cold in England as well. So this is like, this life is not for me. In the meantime, my husband, he's always been an entrepreneur, and he said, "Why are you not studying interior design? Like, you've always wanted to do it. Why don't you go and do it?" So I was like, okay. So I did. I studied because of my husband. He was happy to fund it and stuff. And yeah, that's how I got it.
Wow. I love that. I haven't heard that, your backstory before. I think that's really interesting. So there's a couple of things there. I think one is it's never too late. I think sometimes, people, not necessarily even young people, I think people at any age, sometimes you just want to kind of do things really quickly, but sometimes things happen and you acquire skills, which, and I'm assuming things like accountancy are really good to have in business, knowing your numbers. And it's interesting that a creative person can do both, which quite often, sometimes it's sort of either or. And that sometimes things work out. Like you had that experience, even with historic buildings, I'm sure must have helped as well with, doing what you're doing now with interior design. So I love that you knew you were going to do it. And even though, okay, right now you couldn't afford to, you didn't discard your dream, you kind of did other things, and those have helped as well in you being able to eventually come around to doing what you'd always wanted to do. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jack. So when you first started, so you've done your design course, your interior design course, you're ready to go out there into the world, become an interior designer. What were some of your challenges like when you first started up for your own business? Or did you initially start up your own business, or did you go and work for interior design firms before? How did that pan out? And when you did eventually start Persona Abode, what were some of your initial challenges?
The theme of today is surprise, surprise. It wasn't planned to go into business. Studying, and I found my first client actually found me, and I was like, okay, well, now I kind of need a website, and I kind of got all the background stuff like that. Still, while doing the last bit of my course, but I did want to work for somebody else, but the reality is when you've got 2 children, taking a pay cut to go and do an internship isn't really that much of an option. And I was just like, no, I don't want to do that. And so it happened at the right time. I just felt that I'd accumulated a lot of experience anyway, because for any work I've ever done, I've kind of always looked at their company structure and kind of taken business lessons off it. So it was everything I'd done previously, and I'd also worked at a market stall and run my own business like when I was 18 as well. So it wasn't that I had the confidence to say I can set this up, and I have an American husband, and if you know anything about Americans, they just wake up and do things. So I had the encouragement anyway. So it was never really like a big challenge to say I'm going to set up a business. I had actually studied business before as well. I've studied many things.
Yeah.
I just love studying, and so I've always taken all those kind of things on, and I thought, well, I didn't like how I saw interior design anyway. So to work for someone would already be a compromise. So why not just make it up and do it for yourself, and then I can make all the rules, and why not?
Nice. So you said, Jex, your first customer found you. How did they find you?
Social media somehow, by some kind of miracle. There's like, oh my gosh, you do interior design, and I was like, yeah. And it's like, I need my bathrooms done. I was like, okay. And then why not say yes? It was, for me, it was just like, okay, I've been studying this for so long anyway. I was doing a 3-year course. It took 7 years. So I had plenty of experience of doing it. And I thought, yeah, why not? Someone needs a hand. They're willing to pay me. Seems like a good match. Why not?
Wow. And that wasn't someone you knew. That was just some person on.
Yeah, it was someone I knew. So I've got
it was someone you knew. Okay.
Family, and it was my aunt. But I hadn't actually told anyone that I was studying interior design, let alone announce it to any of my family. So it was just by miracle she found something that I think I'd written a post or something, and yeah, it just went from there.
Wow.
did freelance for a little bit, because I thought, once I had that customer and stuff, I felt that I kind of needed to backtrack a little bit and just get a bit of experience, but not in a way to work fully with somebody. So I think freelance kind of allowed me that freedom to get experience.
Oh, okay. You can do that in the interior design industry then. So interior design firms, they've already maybe got some of their teams, if they've got a big project on and their teams are busy, they would bring in a freelance interior designer.
Exactly. And that kind of allowed me to see how other people run interior design businesses. But then I didn't have to commit so much, because I'm not that I'm not that big on commitment in that way. So yeah, it was a kind of a best of both worlds, but that kind of fizzled off. But then I was just like, it was just before the pandemic, and I was going to leave my job at the Church of England and stuff like that. I didn't quite factor, even though I'm in finance, I didn't quite factor that my daughter was turning 18 at the time. And my mom was turning 16 the same month I was going to leave. And I think these are quite big birthdays. It's quite a big expense. So it wasn't going to work. And that worked in my favour, though, because shortly after that, COVID hit. So.
Wow. So let me backtrack. So basically you were still working, was it part-time at the, or full-time at the?
Yeah,
full-time. Wow. So you still had your full-time job. So up until the pandemic hit, you still had your full-time job at doing the historic buildings conservation, and you were freelancing through Persona Abode for other design firms, right? Wow. And then the pandemic. So then COVID hit. So what happened? Like, how has COVID impacted your business?
Right. So I still work full-time, but I'd be doing it from home. Which has been great, because I had a 4-hour commute. I'm sure you know what London life is.
Wow. Oh God, yeah.
You just spend most of the time traveling and trying to, avoid other people eye contact. So those 4 hours I got back, I was able to then put that into my business. So first it was like planning and taking everything I learned from freelancing and putting that down into my own systems. And then I was just like, okay, I kind of need some clients. So I kind of had to come out my shell and use social media a bit, like, use that to my advantage. And by accident, surprise, surprise, I started teaching other designers how to create 3D renderings. Or just because I've always done renderings, I said I've always been creative, and then someone picked up on that and was like, well, can you teach me how to do it? Can you put together a course? I was like, yeah, why not? And then that kind of started. But then because I started showing all these 3D renderings that I was doing, then other clients wanted, oh, can you actually create this vision for my home? So that's how it just happened very, very naturally. And then it was kind of a bit of a, oh my God, I've got a client, and knowing that it's like totally my full responsibility. Plus I have business bills to pay for. So I had to take it really seriously. But then it was motivational at the same time, because it's like, someone's paying me to do this. I get to do it, not just for fun. So, but then it was like, there's a real element of serious, there's like a lot of pressure. But I think because of my husband, how he is, and he's just always been encouraging me, it's felt more like a fuel. And that it's kind of like, once you've got that motivation to do it once, you feel you can do it again, because you get a bit of an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Clients just started to come, and I was like, wow, this is a role. This is really kind of cool.
Wow. So that's interesting. So it seems like if I'm hearing you right, your interior design career kind of full time, almost like, where you had that more time to put into it, really kind of took off at the height of the pandemic. And that's interesting, because I would have thought the interior design industry would have like closed down to some degree. Do you know what I mean? Particularly because I know in the UK you were in lockdown for so long. So how did that work? Did that just not impact you, or you just found the right clients that were still wanting you to go and do things with their home?
Well, it's partly because I think, the whole, London life in general is you spend most of the time at work. So everyone was concentrating on workplace design and wellness for work, because you're spending so much time. And you went home, and even if you were spending time at home, you were asleep for half of it anyway. So, you might catch your family on the weekends, whatever. But then all of a sudden, during the pandemic, it was just like, oh, this whole big workplace, it was not the place you were going. You might queue up and go to the supermarket, but most of the time you was in home. And then because you wasn't asleep for all of that time, you realise, actually, this place isn't very nice. Your kids have personality, and I really discovered so much about my daughters during the time as well. But you also discovered that paint on the wall is really awful, and I want to change this. And it was like you're spending more time on the couch, and you realise it's not that comfortable. So people kind of had an awakening that their home was so much more, because it was literally at everything. It was your school, your gym, your restaurant, your cinema, everything. And then it was like, but didn't actually figure out how to do it themselves. So it was like, here comes me. It's like, yeah, this is what I love to do, and why not? And there was this, I think because stamp duty came in as well, there was a change in stamp duty. Everyone was rushing to buy homes as well. So everything just happens at a really good time.
Wow, isn't that interesting? So were you, Jecks, I'm assuming you can do all of this like from online? Can you, like, you don't have to physically go and be at someone's house to do the interior design, or do you? So how much of your work was kind of, I don't know, go like doing Zoom or something and seeing the space, or just getting them to send you the specs, as opposed to physically going there and looking around?
Well, I like to be in person. I like to have a feel of spaces, especially because how much of a deep dive I like to go into. I like to see people's mannerisms and stuff, and there is a way of doing that online, and it's nice, but often it's only to half of you. You can't see if someone's tapping their foot and stuff like that. And I think all those kind of interactions and stuff kind of matters in interior design, because it's so personal. So while I started off, while we had the restrictions, being, doing everything on Zoom and stuff like that, I did my best. As soon as everything was lifted, I went and saw people. It was like, couldn't shake their hand, but a virtual high five and stuff like that. It was nice to do. And then, just to see how our relationships kind of strengthened by seeing each other face to face was really nice. And I felt I didn't want to just be behind the screen. As much as I'm an introvert, I could literally live my whole life behind a screen. The need to be a part more in person and be part of that process for my clients.
God, yeah. And are you still working for the Church of England, or are you now full time in your business? Where are you at the moment?
No, still working there. I do most of it time at home. Well, my daughter's at the end of uni. That kind of costs money. So, and I wanted to be able to build my business and have like proper legs to it. So, I know that before the pandemic, one of the hindrances was my time, and the finances. If I had taken away my full-time job, I would then only be able to continue to plug away trying to get business and work on projects, but not have so much backing. So I know financially what strengths having a full-time job is at the moment. And I was able to even employ my daughter to do all my admin work, which is fantastic. To do it, and then it gave her experience as well. But that was because I had the finance to do. It works in my favor at the moment. But the plan overall is not to be, stressing myself doing two jobs.
Yeah, well, I love that. I think that's really good that you've shared that, because I think sometimes when people are thinking, oh, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to start a vegan business, they think they've got to just kind of jump feet first. And sometimes that could work. Sometimes people do that. I know sometimes there's a saying, you jump over the cliff and you'll find your wings kind of thing. But I think there's also, a lot to be said for this method, which I know a lot of people do, is that they start their business on the side. Maybe they transition to part-time while they build it, and then they leave. And I've even known, I know someone I couple of people actually I interviewed for my book Vegan Ventures have said, you know, they went full-time in their business, and then due to certain circumstances they had to go back part-time to their job or in that field, and then they were able to go full-time again, and I think they've stayed full-time. So I think it's helpful for people to know that it's not necessarily that straight path, and that sometimes it's a smart thing to do. And like you said, you were able to fund your business from your full-time job and employ your daughter. I love that. That's awesome.
I think, one thing what's always missing about that whole talking about jumping off is like, you can't tell that if you to your mortgage provider, or you know, oh yeah, I've jumped off a cliff but I can't pay my rent and stuff. No one cares.
Yeah. It's very true. It's very true. And as I say, unless you've got, you know, funding or investment, what have you, that's a whole different ball game. But I love that you've shared this, that you're, you know, sometimes you have got to, you know, have a period where, you know, you are kind of, you know, full time, you know, or part time, whatever, in a full time, in a regular, you know, job, a paid job, and you can build your business on the side until you're ready to go full time in it. So definitely appreciate you sharing that. So who are your main kind of clients, Jecks, in terms of demographics? Because I know obviously, you know, you're a vegan interior designer. You also got a very big focus on environmental aspects of interior design and also the health and well-being. So who would you say at the moment, who are your kind of main kind of clientele?
So they're young couples or single women, but they have generally bought their first home. You know, it's, you know what it's like in London, especially. Rent is like, you know, a lot of people rent. It's, you know, the situation that a lot of people are in. And if they do get on the ladder, they're kind of it's their first time. They've never really experienced the freedom of furnishing their own home and not having to ask someone for permission, you know, change the paint colors and stuff like that. So that's the kind of clientele I deal with. They start off with absolutely nothing. You know, they've lived in rented accommodation or at home with their family. They don't own any furniture. So we always have that joke that we're going to start from the cushion up, and every time we meet, we're going to upgrade your seating until you've actually got a whole sofa. So like meeting online at first, they're often standing up because there's literally nothing in this empty space. Eventually they'll get down and sit on the floor on a cushion. Then they'll get a bed, and then eventually we'll get the sofa, and before you know it, the home is totally full. So I kind of start building a whole story about how they want to live, and it's kind of dispelling everything about how they lived with parents, because we all, you know, when you grow up, when you live around your parents, it's their taste. They might involve you a little bit, or what your room is like, and that, you know, that's posts and stuff like that as a teenager. But then your whole personality can kind of explode into your own place when, you know, when you don't have the restrictions of parents. But then you're like, oh, all I know is what my parents did, and then you don't really understand your own style, and you know what your budget can actually really afford. Because, you know, if you've never bought furniture before, well, I don't know how much a bed costs. I don't know how, you know, how much a rug is. Like, you know, there's loads of stuff and there's so much choice out there. But how do you actually nail that down into everything you believe in and what your money can actually afford? So I do all that for them. I take them on a journey to teach them, you know, what you're actually comfortable with, what things actually cost, and do it in a sustainable way about building a life over a long period of time. So I'm not really looking at the smaller details in terms of like accessories. We're talking about the big items, what are really going to make that impact in your home, like the importance of not going for a cheap bed and a cheap mattress.
Oh yeah,
spend a lot of time in your bed, and there's nothing worse than sleeping on a lumpy bed because it's
absolutely
cheap.
I agree with you. I love it. So Jecks, what kind of marketing strategy, I know you've mentioned social media, so what kind of marketing strategies have been the most successful for you in attracting clients, and what's working right now?
Just being vocal. I guess I'm quite opinionated, which I've discovered about myself. It's not that I'm totally black and white in a lot of areas. I'm just quite strong in my opinions, and I am happy to share them most of the time as well. And sharing about my background, you know, if you think my career history is weird, then, you know, everything else in my setup is just as could be really fitted into a novel, to be honest. It's interesting to most people, but that kind of helps me connect with a lot of people because I can identify with different people's situations, and I think people are kind of drawn into me because of that. So it's not necessarily just because I do design; it's because of all the other things are at play as well, and you know, just sharing things about, you know, me being a mom, and you know, a lot of people talk about the kids being young, and it's like my kids are like 20 and 22, so I'm relating to older people who have got that money to buy their home and stuff like that, so I get people on that kind of vibe. And you know, I have an American husband. My you know, my young eldest daughter is a footballer, so I can connect with people over sport, even though I have no interest in it whatsoever. And you know, my different careers and stuff like that, it's just like everyone's like, there's always something of interest to somebody. So that's literally just been my marketing strategy. Tell people about me. And then,
so when you say you tell them about you, so are you telling them on social? Are you telling them in person when you're meeting them? Is it that kind of thing? So it's both that just general conversation,
yeah.
as well as maybe speaking at events, obviously, but also social as well. So, but it's also like that personal connection, like people that you meet.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's kind of one thing I kind of learned about business. You kind of got to become about talking about yourself because people buy from people. So once upon a time, I did do a course on journalism and being in front of camera and stuff, and it was really helpful because I was like, as I said, I'm introvert at heart, and I will be in that corner until someone pulls me and say, "There's a fire, you need to get out." But in order to have a business, you kind of have to be the opposite. So I kind of get that, and I've had to force myself, and it's nice as well. But it's also nice in a therapeutic way to reveal things about yourself. So one of the first lives that I did, I talked about my motherhood journey, which is, you know, just being very different and controversial. But a lot of people connected with me over that, and I saw how that kind of worked. So I kind of continued to repeat that over and over again, but turn it into a business kind of thing. So, you know, telling the story of Persona Abode, because a lot of people say when they turn up in the interiors world, it was because they grew up and it was like rearranging a bedroom and stuff like that. And although that was very much the case for me, it was the other things. It's like my mom took me to wallpaper shops when I was younger, and I sat there looking at these big books and planning. So I never thought that people would go to places like a regular DIY store to go and pick wallpaper. That wasn't my experience. It's like, oh, that's a bit shabby, isn't it? And like my parents always taught me about the quality of materials and stuff like that. So I always talk about things like that, and it's just like, oh, what did your parents teach you? You know, overall, that was the kind of things what made up Persona Abode.
I
Another
love that.
story, is I had always succumbed to domestic violence as a child and as an adult as well. But it kind of for me, I'm always someone to research and find meaning behind things. And I found that the meaning of home kind of really plays with your experiences and stuff. So I was actually reading.
Oh, excuse me. Sometimes, sorry.
I was kind of really captured by the fact that how I lived in my home affected me because of domestic violence. And unfortunately, my mom had experienced the same. And when I talked to her about it, she'd also said that the way she had lived was affected by the experience she had. And I thought, okay, this is a thing. And I started kind of realizing how important home was. And those are things that I've brought into Persona Abode because I know that home is really important. And if you're homeless or if you're facing eviction, how much of you is compromised because of that?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
turning that around for people who have never had the experience of home is really important to me because it is a point of developing your character and who you bring out into the world. It's not so much like the pretty things that everyone talks about. It's like, no, for me, it's such a deeper connection to our worlds that we're in.
Wow. I love this. This is so amazing. I'm so glad you've shared all this. I love what you said about particularly injecting your personal brand into everything. And I love that you said that you're an introvert, and a lot of people are. And just because you're an introvert, it doesn't mean that you have to be all kind of, what have you. You kind of do it in a way that's comfortable for you. But yeah, definitely being able to, certainly if you're going to be the face of your business is about you. I think people just really connect with that, because if you think about it, so many interior designers, people can look them up on Google and go, oh yeah, their work looks okay, I'll just hire them. But you're right, I think people are, when they can connect with you on that personal level, that deep level, I can imagine that's what's going to help you to stand apart. So I love that. I really appreciate you sharing that, because you're right, people buy from people rather than brands. And I often say that particularly to vegan business owners, because I see even some of them trying to hide behind their brand. Like, you go onto a website for a vegan brand, you've no idea who's behind it, why they started it, and it's like, oh, come on, just get out there. Because something like this, do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm sure hopefully people listening to this will be like, yep, I want to hire Jecks, because they connect with you. And some people won't as well, and that's okay too. So I love
I love
that you share.
people. It's like, I'm not for everybody. I get that, and I like that, because I'm not into everybody either.
Exactly. Now, what about the use of the word vegan? Because we've seen the whole debate, particularly in the food space, of vegan versus plant-based. So tell us a little bit about your use of the word vegan in your marketing and branding. So how prominent it is or otherwise, why it's important, and how it's benefited you as a business.
It is and it isn't prominent. It's a weird thing. So if you look on my website, you won't see all that much about it. It's pretty much because that's how kind of I live my life. Unless you ask me what am I eating, most people don't realize that I will be vegan. So I'm a walking advertisement though at the same time, because I do just wear vegan products, and that happened before I became vegan. So I was always interested in more natural products and not using leather and stuff like that. Because I never really got it about leather, to be honest. So it's just like, I know there was the whole, oh, this is best quality, and people, do that sniff test and say, oh yeah, this smells like leather and stuff. But I was just like, actually, it doesn't smell that great. And it's not all that great, like in interior settings. Like having a leather couch is really awful in the summer. It's horrible. Yeah. And yes, you can clean it up easily when you've got kids and stuff like that. But because my mum, she has leather couches now. She's not vegan. When I was growing up, it was just like, well, it's okay to have a bit of elbow grease and just take care of the stuff, rather than have an easy clean kind of fabric. So I've always seen things in a bit of a different light anyway. And so it's just like, for me, I don't need to keep highlighting, don't use this product, don't use that product, because I'm just showing by example there's alternatives anyway. You don't have to follow the crowd and stuff like that. But at the same time, if I'm talking like on a live stream like this, yeah, I'm vegan, I'm happy and proud, I'll shout it, but I'm just not one of those angry vegans that kind of get riled off by other people not having the same values. And I'm not also not a kind of vegan who say the whole world needs to turn vegan. Yeah, no. I'm fine with that. I'm not trying to convert anybody, and I don't try to convert my clients. It's always about them and about their journey, but I'm going to show them alternatives.
Yeah.
Without having to mention it, because I'm just showing you the best.
And I'm guessing, I suppose, if you're not using the word vegan like all over the place, like my partner Tracy is a clinical hypnotherapist and naturopath, and there's nothing on her website apart from one tiny little line that this is a cruelty-free clinic and kind of thing, but that's it. And she actually gets sheep farmers, cattle farmers come to see her, who probably otherwise wouldn't if you got the word vegan plus. So I know there's pluses and minuses. So I'm assuming you obviously get a lot of non-vegan or pre-vegans, as I like to call them, clients come to you, and then it's nice. And then, as you say, you're able to show them the alternatives, which I love. And I know Ginger Burr, who's a lovely image consultant, vegan image consultant. A lot of her clients are not vegan, but again, she's able to show them that you can be stylish and what have you, with alternative products and things.
Out eventually, it's like that offering me a cup of tea or something, which is always a thing. I even in my marketing, I probably mention tea more than I do veganism. It's like, yeah,
you mentioned what?
I mentioned tea. I'm a big tea person.
Oh, tea.
Yeah. So even my daughter's name's Tea. That's how much I love tea.
Oh, funny. I love it.
Yeah. So, but they always ask, "Oh, do you want milk?" And I was like, "No, unless you've got oat milk or something like that." So it kind of, and I was like, "Okay," because I'm vegan. And then people kind of have this thing automatically. As soon as you say the word vegan, it's just like they kind of need to justify why they're not. So it's quite funny.
Oh, yeah.
I literally didn't ask you and just waiting for my tea.
I
But
know.
they literally do. It's like, oh, I've kind of tried it a bit before. I'm vegetarian and stuff like that. And I was like, okay. But it's a nice way to introduce the topic because, because I've said that I'm vegan. It's like, this is what I'm going to do for you. So there are certain things like I'm not going to particularly push. And they'll be like, okay, why is that? So we were able to gently go into a conversation, and I'm that kind of person, just like to
Nice.
slowly. And it's like, I haven't done this because actually there's really bad benefits for the well, not bad benefits,
No, but
sorry, like for the world, for animals, for yourself, for your home, for the future. So let's look at something else. And
nice. That's really great. That's really good because, like you say, you're able to get in front of people who probably otherwise wouldn't if someone went in leading with the fact that, right, I'm vegan and this is what we're going to do. You're able to gently educate people. So I think that's absolutely fantastic. But I notice you are vegandesign.org certified. Just tell us briefly what that is and why it's important.
Yes. So I kind of noticed about veganism kind of rising in 2017, and I was coming towards the end of my design studies. And as I said, I kind of looked at the design world and wasn't happy that everything was about, oh, this is pretty, you need to beautify your space. That's not kind of my thing. But then I kind of Googled, is vegan interior design a thing? I was like, well, surely, like it's in the food industry, it's in the fashion industry, it must be a thing. I found 2 websites, and I was like, okay, it's a possibility, but I kind of put it back to our mind. But I'm also an avid podcast listener. So I was listening to a podcast, and this lady called Deborah DeMore was like, she said, I'm putting together a course about vegan design and teaching, the awful things that happen. And because I'm not one of those vegans who's ever watched any of all those films either. I've never kind of played into that. But I wanted to do this course. And after I'd seen the horrors, I was like, this spoke to me because it gave meaning into what I was, about to go into interior design. And it felt right. It justifies me being in a world that is talking about a lot of being pretty, but it gave a deeper meaning. I'm forever find deeper meaning for things. So it just for me it was a right fit. And so from the get-go, my business was always about vegan interior design, but I wasn't vegan myself, so I actually had to convert my whole lifestyle.
Oh, interesting. Oh, I love that. So you did the course and were curious about vegan design, then became vegan.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, because of my daughter, who actually eats meat now, she dared me to do veganism for a month. And I loved it so much.
Well done to your daughter.
Yeah, she didn't do it herself, but she did her mum. So.
Oh, fantastic. Wow. It's so fascinating hearing people's journeys, and how amazing. Wonderful. I love that. And so having the vegandesign.org certification, I guess that can now help, because although obviously a lot of your clients are not vegan, but it also opens you up to clients who are vegan that can go, yes, this is a vegan interior designer, because it seems to be an area that's certainly picking up now. I know you and I both spoke at the recent Vegan Interior Design Week that Aileen organised. So it's obviously an area that's picking up. So hopefully you'll also get some people who are actively looking for vegan interior designers as well. So you get the best of both worlds.
I think because, fashion kind of leads, and then interior design kind of follows, and that's where we're kind of at the moment. But it's like, it's not just about being animal friendly, it's also caring about our place in the animal kingdom, because we are part of that, and we are responsible for these intelligent beings which we don't take care of enough, but we're also not taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And we've only got this one planet, so it kind of all ties off, all together. It's like, that's where my business motto, I guess, is people, place, and planet, because your home, as in your body, is something we need to take care of. Your home is housing your body. We need to take care of that, and it's sitting on this one earth, which incorporates everybody's home. We kind of all need to take care of. And and veganism fits so well into that, because it shows you a caring side which the whole world needs. Caring for animals, and as a child, I've had pets before, or I'm not a big pet person. I've had budgies when I was younger and stuff, but that teaches children how to care. Looking at something, and it's like, you see plants here. I'm not that great at keeping plants, actually. But I probably work harder to keep animals and kids alive. You know what I mean?
Oh, good.
But that's kind of really what we need to do overall. It's like, if you care enough for yourself, you're going to then care enough for your home, and then you kind of care enough for everything else, including animals. So
nice.
It all works in our favour, because we need each other.
I love that. Now, I know you mentioned that, you're not keen on, obviously, some aspects of interior design can be a bit frivolous, but I think they can also be similar with food and even fashion up until recently, is that, if it's vegan or it's, eco, it can be a bit bland and what have you. So can you just dispel the myth? So if I want a feature wall that's like, psychedelic or, glitter, eco glitter, of course, like one can have that. So you can still work with people, because some people will have, different aesthetics, some people might like something classic and nice looking and calm looking, and others might want something sparkling and fabulous, and I guess you can still do that within the vegan and eco and health aesthetic. Is that right? Back me up here.
As you can see my background, I'm not shy of colour. It's funny, because I know you love glitter. One question I always ask my clients is, do you like glitter?
Do you? Oh, I love that.
Because I don't like glitter.
Oh, funny. Oh, no. We can never be friends again. No, I'm kidding.
But it is a question I ask, because it kind of gauges where people are at. This is like, if you're into glitter, you're probably not going to be my client, because I'm not going to.
Oh, okay, really interesting. Okay, that's good to know, though, that you're able to filter people out. So you do have a particular aesthetic, and there's probably interior designers who love it and would be amazing for that. So that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
But there is this thing about, if you're being sustainable, there's this whole sense of calmness, but calmness is different things to different people. Like, if you put me in a white room, I will be really anxious, because I don't like clinical spaces.
Right.
If you put me in a colourful, vibrant space, I'm really great. So calm means different things to different people. So you kind of need someone who is a bit more daring in expressing yourself and stuff like that. And then there's other designers who are just like, yeah, I'm going to create this calm, tranquil space with, minimalist kind of spaces, and it, voids of color and stuff like that. And then you need someone like me who's like, yeah, we're going to jazz it up, but still calm you down.
I like that. And I love that that's a good lesson. I think a good business lesson is that you don't have to please everyone, and you're not going to appeal to everyone, and that you will attract clients that are right for you, and you'll be right for them. And that, I think, is really important, because sometimes, I think particularly when people are starting out, they're kind of, I've got to, serve everybody, and perhaps go against maybe what's, natural to you in order to do that. Whereas you don't have to. And perhaps the more you niche and become known for a particular way of doing your business, in your case interior design, that can actually really help your business be more successful, because you'll get the clients you want, the testimonials you want, and you can become an authority and known in that particular niche within the business. And again, in your case, interior design. So I love that you've shared that. So, well, just what would you say, that just to round up, Jecks, first of all, what are your predictions for the future of the industry and any particular trends that you're seeing or materials in the interior design world?
Trends, I don't do them, so I don't know. I really don't pay attention to those.
Fair enough.
Partly because, I'm not in that consumer kind of mindset where you always thinking about buy this, buy that, and stuff like that. And I think that's how trends are kind of shown. Even though there is an advantage to, like, saying veganism being a trend, sustainability being a trend, because it's got a bigger cause to it. So, I do kind of see things like that. And I hope that the design industry kind of catches up where food and fashion is going. I think we could speed up a little bit, you know what I mean, to hurry that along. But at the same time, there's so much to learn. I'm happy for it to kind of take a bit of time so designers can kind of catch up with their knowledge. I'm very much into education and doing things like with, proper purpose and proper, look out into the future, rather than just kind of jump on a bandwagon and do it, figure it out along the way.
Fair enough. No, that's fair enough.
Let's have the design industry kind of learn about sustainability, veganism included, with a proper purpose to actually, that we're going to affect longer term change, because we have to change, you know what I mean? Say we've only got this one planet, so we've kind of got to get there. But I'm happy for everyone to learn how we're going to get there and be part of that. So I became one of the founders of Interior Design Declares, which is talking about climate change and biodiversity. Because that's something I really, really want the industry to be part of. I'm really proud to be part of the design industry, and I want it to kind of tail off this kind of that TV persona that we've got at the moment. It's like, I don't know if you've ever watched any of the design shows, but the one person they always take the mick out of is the interior designer. Oh, they're crazy. Their designs are mad. Always painters the Mad Hatter, and we're not. We have creative ideas, sure, but we do bring as much to the table as architects who are respected. So I feel that, for me, and the business in itself needs to kind of paint interior design in a really positive and a bit of a serious light as well. As much as I'm quite, jokey, it does have a really important message to give, and we've got something positive to give to the future. Because if anything, we're always going to need indoor spaces, especially in England because it's cold.
Yes, that's very true. That's very true. So just to wrap up, Jecks, and this kind of ties in with, I was going to ask you, what do you see the future of your business? I noticed you already mentioned that you taught a course and you're passionate about education. Do you see that as an extra kind of arm to your business? Because everybody talks about diverse income streams. So just finally to wrap up, what's your plan or your vision, as much as one can have one in the madness of the world at the moment, for yourself and Persona Abode?
Okay, so by accident, there's if you see that piece there, that is one of my artworks. I'm building an art collection. So I've always done art, as I said, and I started showing those on social media as well. And everyone was like, "How come you aren't selling these?" I surprised my husband. He's never actually seen me doing the art. It's like, these are amazing. So I started. The start of this year, I was doing an art piece a day, an hour of artwork, just randomly. And it's built up into a whole collection, and so I'm going to debut that next year.
Oh, congratulations. How exciting. I love it.
And it's vegan paper, it's vegan, totally, in line with everything what Persona Abode is. But I do want to build the company to have a lot of artists and designers, scientists. It's kind of, I want to build Persona Abode to be kind of a research hub, not just another design company who gives you an end result. I want to take clients on a whole journey with their whole lifestyles, you know, to make that positive shift. Because I think that there's so many cogs to a person anyway. Bringing in one professional and then hiring another professional and stuff like that, it's kind of wasted everyone's time. And so why not just do it all together and, you know, have this big effect on clients? That's what
I love that. You're actually building a brand. You're not just building an interior design business. You're building like a creative wellness in design kind of brand, like a whole brand. How exciting. That's amazing. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing all this, Jecks. It's been so interesting getting an insight, and I think it's been really helpful for people who are thinking of, you know, starting their own business, just to see the possibilities and the different ways to do it. Like we talked about how, you know, you keep your job initially, you might want to keep your job initially, and just, you know, thinking, yeah, beyond just starting a business, but how you can actually build it into a brand that brings in all aspects of you. And I love how you've done that, and that your personal brand and ethics, etc., have really, are really going in towards building Persona Abode as a brand, and definitely one to watch. So it's been so fabulous speaking with you. Now, if you want to check out Jex's website, you can find that at personaabodeinteriors.com. Did I get that right, Jecks?
Yes,
I think I did. Awesome. If you're watching the video, you can see that link scrolling along the bottom of your screen. And if you're listening to the audio version of this episode, you can find that link on the show notes page. And do check out Jecks on the social media, where you can see her artwork, her everything else that she shares. And it's been wonderful speaking with you, Jecks. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been nice as well. It's always nice to kind of talk about, you know, your business and stuff, because it is like a baby. And you know, there's only so much you can talk about kids when they're adults. So my business is taken over in that way. But it also kind of solidifies everything you think that you want for your business. You know, the questions you've given me and stuff like that is just like, yeah, this is the path that I want to go on, because it's something from my heart. But sometimes
I'm so excited for you. I can really see how this can grow. You're such a creative person, and you've got those solid ethics and aesthetic and the whole wellness. I mean, I can just see so much, you know, possibility for you, and I'm really excited to watch you grow. So thank you so much for sharing.
I've got so many thoughts on my head and stuff like that, and it's just like sometimes you kind of forget. But this, you know, it's set in stone, and it kind of keeps me accountable and gets me excited about my business again. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and bye for now.